photography down here. You can see.
I had never been so fulfilled in my life.
I would do anything for Jim Jones.
How do you account for such an avid following?
I'm dedicated to my people.
We need to develop our own society.
There's not a day that goes by that you don't think of some parts of it.
My dad became cruel. We became numb to it.
Blasphemy to talk about going back.
There's no way out.
If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace.
As we're flying in, it looked like clothes laying on the ground.
No more pain now. No more pain.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Hurt, and I am here with the NRW, where nerds rule the world. And today I am on audio with Yulanda Williams. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing well, thank you. And yourself?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Yulanda is a survivor of the Jonestown Cult and Massacre. She took part in the Cult Massacre One Day in Jonestown National Geographic documentary series. Yulanda, when this came to you, one of the things that we've seen in true crime documentary and in history documentaries in general, victims or people who have experienced it are usually kind of a side character. They're not the main voices in these documentaries. How did you feel when they came to you and asked you to be part of this?
I was absolutely excited and relieved that finally someone wanted to hear the perspectives from a Black former member of People's Temple. So I felt that it was an opportunity for someone to finally be able to speak the truth for the 900 plus people who no longer are here on Earth.
Absolutely. For someone who is a survivor, for someone who has stories, we all know that it can be difficult to come forward. How do you feel about telling your story, and why are you so adamant to do so?
Well, I think it's important for me to have come out of hiding. I was in hiding for almost 15 years, and that was not the correct thing to happen in my life. And also because of that, I experienced a lot of survivor's guilt. So I think it was very important for me to come out and tell the truth and talk about it, because in talking about it, it helps me to heal. But at the same time, perhaps it can serve as a message for someone who might find themselves in some type of situation that is similar to what occurred there in Jonestown. And hopefully it can also help people who are finding themselves in gangs or in domestic violence relationships. Hopefully they too can find some part of these stories that will allow them to garner up the strength to get themselves out of situations where they are the victim. Because nobody has to be a victim. We can all be victorious if we just talk about it and we try and get ourselves out of the situations.
That was beautiful. Don't have to be the victim. You can be victorious. I love that so much. Let's talk about the messaging a little bit, because there are a lot of assumptions just in general. And so what do you want the audience to learn, to figure out with the survivors coming forward? With your story, what do you want the audience to learn?
Well, first of all, I want them to know that no one is exempt from this type of situation. There are cults and there are leaders out there who are manipulative and divisive, just like Jim Jones. I mean, in fact, there are many ministers who do this very thing. We didn't know what to call it during that time. We didn't know it was called a cult, but we found ourselves in this situation. The majority of the people in People's Temple were not uneducated. There were very many educated people. The majority of the people in People's Temple were, unfortunately, people of color. primarily women, strong women. There were people who were business owners. There were homeowners. There were people who were retired. Yes, we had some who were former drug addicts. Yes, we had some who had a criminal past. But that's just what that was. That was their past. And it was a group at one point when it was formed that was doing positive things for society. But unfortunately, it became corrupt because of the leader, Jim Jones. But we must also remember, he could not have done this on his own. And that's why I truly, to this day, believe that this was a experiment, a governmental experiment. And this is why he was allowed to do so many things that were illegal and that really never should have occurred. And it's unfortunate that I truly believe that many of the people wound up being drugged to the point that they could not control their destiny. And also we have to remember that many were malnourished because the diet was not acceptable. They were surviving off of rice, pudding, and they very rarely saw any forms of meat or the nutrients that you should have in your body on a daily basis. And they were worked from sunrise all the way into sunset. And then after they worked, they were fed. It was just like a modern day concentration camp. And ultimately, after they were fed, they had to endure a 2 to 3 hour service, hearing Jim Jones just continue on in his rampant propaganda about what was going on in the United States. And so they were living under fear, and they were held there captive at gunpoint. There was no way for them to escape. There was no hope, and they were cut off from their families.
Yes, and that was one of the great things about seeing it from seeing this documentary from a survivor's perspective is you hear those little things that often feel like they're removed to kind of save the audience a little bit. What about yourself? What have you learned through this experience, either about you or about what you have done in your past, or what you had experienced in your past? What did you learn during this experience?
Well, I learned that in surviving, I had to find what was my purpose. What was my purpose in life? And unfortunately, that took me almost 20 plus years to figure that portion out. And once I was able to do that, I learned the importance of being my own individual self, not allowing people to just make me over or morph me into what they want me to be. I learned the importance of studying on my own and not just accepting things that someone tells me as the true gospel. I also learned about the foolishness of religion. And I learned about the fact that I have to rely on my own faith and my own wisdom and be the person that I need to be based upon my morals and values. And I learned the importance of life because at some point in time, I had to face the fact that it was no longer acceptable for me to feel guilty and constantly feel that I should be punished, that I deserved far more than that. And in doing so, that is how I feel I survived, and I maintained that resiliency to just bounce back. And of course, I had family that still loved me unconditional in spite of the things I had said and done to them, in accordance with what we were instructed to do by Jim Jones. So there were many valuable lessons, but I hope that others don't have to go through this to learn the lessons in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Yulanda, for your time so much. I love the documentary, loved your stories. Cult Massacre, One Day in Jonestown from National Geographic is available to stream on Hulu right now. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.